My name's Josh Christie. I write a blog called brewsandbooks.com and also freelance about beer. And my book, Maine Beer, Brewing and Vacation Land, came out earlier this year. Or came out last year. Yeah, I mean, Maine has a tortured history with alcohol, is the way I always put it. That's really typified by big swings to different extremes. In the early 1800s, at the turn of the century, Maine was considered the drunkest place in the country. So they were very much on that extreme end of things. By way of example, Portland had less than 10,000 residents and more than 600 bars. It gives you a sense of just that, that's not a statistic that necessarily tells you something, but it gives you a sense of how pervasive alcohol was in the state. And it wouldn't really be a problem if none of the negatives that came along with alcohol abuse came along with this heavy alcohol use. But there was truancy and spousal abuse and child abuse and public disorderly, all these problems. So in 1851, Maine passed the first statewide prohibition of alcohol. So a real hard swing in the other direction to total prohibition of alcohol at all, no ifs, ands, or buts. And then swinging kind of back to the other extreme, in the 80s, Maine was one of the first places that the craft brewing movement took hold with Gearys and Gritties specifically, and Maine continues to be kind of at the forefront of craft beer and craft brewing. Fantastic. Maine's one of the few places that you can look at, and I've talked with a couple of people about this just because I think it's this weird thing that there's breweries that have been around long enough that people will look at Gearys or Gritties or even Shipyard and think of that as, their father's beer or their parents' beer. Because it's been around for such a long time. It's a known quantity locally, which a lot of places just don't have a brewing culture that's been around long enough to support that kind of thing. Well, one of the big reasons behind the temperance movement in the 1800s in Maine was Colonel Neil Dow, who's better known as the Napoleon of temperance or the father of temperance. He was really the kind of guy that kind of kicked it off across the country. And he was the mayor of Portland, he was the son of Quakers, and from a very young age did not like what he saw going on in terms of people abusing alcohol. He was very against it. He was a member of one of the first temperance societies in the country, which was started in Maine in 1815. And then when that temperance society said we should have total temperance from alcohol except for religious sacrament, we should allow people to take their religious sacrament if they want to. That was when Colonel Dow said, nope, no deal, I'm going to go start my own temperance society because I think capital T total, no alcohol at all, total prohibition. And he tried to pass laws or he tried socially to convince people that they shouldn't have alcohol, and wasn't terribly effective, and he realized that if I can't change people's minds, I'll change the law. So he got into Maine state law and eventually became the mayor of Portland, and it was really on his back that the 1851 Maine law, which completely prohibited alcohol, was passed, and then was seen as such a success in Maine that other laws cropped up all around the country named Maine laws in the following years. So it's the legacy we get to leave.